A massive search was launched. Over 200 planes scoured the area, but no trace of Flight 19 or the missing mariner was found. Since the 1960s, many writers have investigated the Bermuda Triangle. Some have implied that there are strange forces in this area that could affect ships and planes.
We may find it has something to do with the actual construction of the Earth, with the construction of the sea, with the magnetic powers that exist within the Earth that we suspect, but we don't know if they can be directed or why they are directed.
Magnetic forces have affected Flight 19. Researcher Larry Cush has painstakingly pieced together the contemporary evidence. The Navy's 1946 Board of Investigation concluded that Taylor got lost because he trusted his instincts more than his instruments.
The reason he thought he was in the Florida Keys is that he had been flying out of Miami for a number of months, and so he was mentally still thinking he was in the Florida Keys. If a pilot or anybody navigating is lost, you can depend on them saying that their compass is broken, because if they see something that disagrees with what they know or feel, they disbelieve the compass.
We seem to be off course. We cannot see land. Repeat, we cannot see land. We're not sure of our position.
Nowhere has Cush found any reference to the strange messages from Flight 19 that some authors claim are central to the mystery.
It looks like we are.
There were several supposed messages about we're entering white water, nothing looks as it should, the sea looks strange. I've talked to the people who were in the tower at the time. I've thoroughly gone through the Navy investigation of people who testified. Nowhere does anybody say that they said any such thing.
So how could Flight 19 have disappeared without leaving any trace? Most writers suggest that they vanished in mid-afternoon in good weather, ideal conditions for a rescue. This wartime film demonstrates the way to ditch a plane at sea.
Even the pilot doesn't know how many seconds she'll float. Clear the ship is the first objective, which means that there are from 15 seconds to perhaps 15 minutes between life and death.
But in reality, Flight 19 did not disappear in these perfect conditions. The last message from the Flight 19 Avengers was received at 7:04 p.m.
That night would have been extremely rough because the winds had picked up to maybe 25 to 30 knots. The waves probably would have been 10 to 12 feet. And to land an airplane like the TBM, which is not that big, is a real tough job.
If you hit a wave, you'd be like crashing into a wall. My feeling is the airplanes came in, hit real hard, and probably went down before anybody was able to get out.
The final mystery is what happened to the Mariner rescue plane. There is a rational explanation. Because of their vast fuel tanks, their crews refer to them as flying bombs, extremely vulnerable to electrical sparks or a stray cigarette. The Mariner was tracked on radar until 7:50 p.m. when it disappeared from the screens. At this location, a ship reported seeing a mid-air explosion.
Really, it didn't hit me until 9 o'clock that night, and then I was completely wrung out. But I stayed on duty all that night, all day the next day, and into the next night while they were searching for him. And I felt terrible.
Altogether, 27 young men had died on that night in December 1945. Although the fate of Flight 19 has become clearer, it's not the only mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. So what is it about this area of sea that gives it such a fearsome reputation? The first sailors who braved the Atlantic feared these waters. Legend has it that ships were becalmed here to rot amidst the hulks of earlier vessels. Vast areas of weed on the eastern edge of the Bermuda Triangle made this sea mysterious. It's called the Sargasso. The Sargasso Sea is unusually calm. It's bounded by opposing currents, which make it rotate slowly clockwise, trapping any debris that drifts into it. The weed gave sailors false hope that land was nearby. In fact, the Sargasso is some 700 miles from the east coast of America. Writers have claimed that Columbus was the first to experience strange happenings in the Bermuda Triangle on his voyage to the New World. On September the 15th, 1492, he made a curious entry in his log.
And on this night, they saw a marvelous branch of fire fall from the sky into the sea, distant from them 4 or 5 leagues.
The fire Columbus saw was probably a meteor. Although it posed no threat, there are other natural phenomena in these seas which can strike a ship out of the blue.
U.S. and Canadian ships are searching the Atlantic north of Bermuda this morning for 18 people missing after their ship sank in heavy seas. They were aboard the Marquez.
The sinking of the Marquez in June 1984 was both sudden and mysterious. The loss of her crew of young trainee sailors was particularly tragic. The Marquez was competing in the second leg of the tall ships race from Bermuda to Halifax when she was overwhelmed by an event that entirely missed ships sailing just a couple of miles away. That night, Philip Sefton was at the helm of the Marquez. He was an experienced transatlantic sailor who had braved many storms, but even he could hardly believe what happened.
A wind struck us from over the port quarter of the boat that was astounding in its intensity. It was a straight line blast of wind that had a physical force behind it and was in excess of 100 knots. It blasted the tops off the waves. It turned the sea itself to milk. It was hard to see where the sea finished and blown spray began. She went down by the bow and you could feel her start to go. But you knew she wasn't coming up again, she was going down. The whole event took 45 seconds from sailing conventionally to the ship going down. And there was no mayday.
As the Marquez sank, Philip Sefton managed to jump clear. After a night in a life raft, he was rescued. 19 of his 28 shipmates had died.
The weather has extreme edges. It has violent events, and we were part of one. We were unlucky. It was small. There were ships nearby that weren't involved, but we were slap bang in the path of it.